What if I told you that Japanese wa zenzen muzukashiku nai and that it's not as hard as everybody is saying? I mean, I started learning Japanese at 13 and I thought it was going to be one of the hardest things that I would ever do. But despite wasting loads of time, making loads of mistakes, I finally managed to hit about N3 level. So basically fluency after about 3-4 years. But I'd like to say I got conversational quite a bit before that. で、今は全然喋れるから君も絶対できるよ. And now I'm even planning on going to university in Japan, so that's going to be super exciting. So in this video, I'll show you why the fear is bigger than the reality and the fact that a lot of things people say that stigmatize Japanese and Japanese is so hard, a lot of times just aren't applicable or are actually just a lot more manageable than you think. So by using my mistakes as stepping stones, we'll debunk some of these myths and you can see Japanese is as easy as can be. And finally, get your journey started and on your road to fluency. So let's get right into the video. So with all of that said, learning Japanese is by no means a piece of cake, and that's not what I'm claiming in this video. You will have to put in a lot of effort to learn any language, so just keep that in mind. But the problem is there's so many people who claim that Japanese is just downright impossible or just a super hard language to learn, and it creates such a huge image that it's like something you have to dedicate your entire life to in order to achieve. That people saying like, oh, you need like a photographic memory, you need to be a genius, things like that. But like, it's really not that difficult to learn Japanese once you have a system put into place. And all that stuff people say just discourages beginners before they even start. So I promise you, if you stick to the end of this video, I guarantee your mindset on learning Japanese will change. So today I'll walk you through it and show you what the real challenges are, how you can overcome them, and the advantages of the Japanese language, like what inherent parts of it are actually just really intuitive and easy to pick up. And then we can talk about a little bit of a strategy on how you can learn Japanese faster. And if you are interested, I did make a video on exactly how I learned Japanese, so feel free to check that out. So first and foremost, I think the biggest reason why people find Japanese hard or intimidating is because, as I mentioned earlier, it's just like so stigmatized, and rightfully so in certain ways. When I say stigmatized, I mean the image of Japan as a country. It seems so distant, it's so far away, the culture is so different, they got a whole different alphabet, different script. And looking at this from an outside perspective, when you have like no experience, not really any knowledge of it, just seems so intimidating. And that's exactly how I felt. I thought I was getting into something crazy when I was learning Japanese. You know, it seems really difficult, really challenging. I know we have an overall lack of understanding on a certain topic. We usually tend to kind of stay away from it because it's just the unknown. We don't know what's going on. And that is one reason why it's so important to just get started, because as soon as you get started, you get over that hill and you see where you're actually going. But anyways, I want to dive deeper into the writing system because I think that is probably the most intimidating thing in the whole Japanese language. And throughout the journey, I think it's something that people really struggle with, even after getting past the beginner stage. So firstly, there's 3 writing systems in Japanese. You got kana, which is made up of katakana and hiragana. They are both phonetic systems, so they are just read the same way every single time. You memorize them and that's it. It's always that. So you got character da, you got character ka, you got ku, you got i. Always the same. You can put them together, make words. And then katakana is the same, but it's used for foreign words. So keiki or cookie or soccer. So words are taken from foreign languages. Then you got kanji, which is the Chinese borrowed characters, which are very commonly used to represent a range of things, like basically everything. They're very important. There's about 2,200 of them that you'd need to know to be considered fluent in Japanese. And some of these kanji can be like super complex with like 25 strokes, something crazy like that. And you look at these as somebody who doesn't speak the language and it just looks insane. And the impression that you have to like be able to read these kanji just to be able to read like some basic kids books, like for people aged like 10 years old, is just crazy as well, you know. Like it's definitely some complex stuff, very intimidating. And that's where I think it's always going to be useful to have somebody else you can kind of feed back on to give you help. And as some of you guys might know, I haven't been studying Japanese too much recently, and when I do, I always like to kind of do stuff on my own, you know, just consuming content, etc. But sometimes you just hit a wall and you need external advice, whether that's more in-depth for beginners or whether it's kind of just conversations for people trying to maintain their level, kind of like me where I'm at in Japanese, or whether that's more more in depth for beginners who are learning things like kanji and need some explanations, etc. And that's where I've been using italki. If you don't already know, italki is an online language learning platform offering personalized one-to-one lessons with native speaking teachers. What I love about it is you're not actually just memorizing phrases, you are practicing Japanese or any of the 150 plus languages possible in real life conversations that you can actually use. And the best part is you can easily find the right teacher for your level, needs, and interests. If you want somebody who speaks your native language, they can explain tricky grammar to you, done. If you want someone who focuses on conversations to practice, done. Every teacher I've had on italki has been super supportive, which makes it way less scary to start speaking even from day one as a beginner. Plus, it's flexible and affordable, so you pay per lesson, meaning you control your budget and your schedule. And I'll be real, that is huge for me because I don't want to be locked into an expensive subscription that I'm not using every day. And now italki has stepped it up with their brand new AI tool, italki Plus, which you can even try for free for 1 month. With italki Plus, you get AI-powered learning tools designed to help you learn faster. It's perfect for practicing outside of lessons, reviewing vocabulary, and reinforcing what your teacher just taught you. Isn't that amazing? It's super easy to book a lesson, and here's how mine went.
他のところへ、行くと北の方とか行くと僕も方言わからないんですけど。
そうなんだ。
本当わからない。
面白い。例とかあるんすか？僕
の住んでるところは例えば柔らかいっていうのを、例えばやこいとかって言ったりする。確か初耳だったらちょっとわかんないですね。So yeah, if you've been thinking about leveling up your language game, now's the perfect time. italki is running a special promo for you guys. If you use my code Shiyoje, I've got it here on the screen, and purchase $10 in credits, you'll get $5 for free. But heads up, it's only for the first 50 people, so make sure you act quick. So don't wait. Click the link in my description, grab your offer, and start your language learning journey today with italki. So starting with the kana, so katakana and hiragana, these two are actually fairly easy to learn. So as I said, you'll have a character, it makes that noise, and it's as simple as that. You memorize it, you memorize the pronunciation, what it looks like, and it's as simple as that. So if you got character dingo, so the word dingo, you got characters di, go, simple as that. You put them together, they make the noise. This actually isn't too hard, you know? Those two alphabets, you put in like 4 hours over 2 days, and you'll be able to learn the reading of all of them, you know? And I think that's not too bad, and I don't think that's too bad. And once you do know kana, you can read a decent amount of Japanese. Some like very easy kids books are written in it. So you do unlock a little bit of the language, and this is a pretty important step to getting started. But actually, I think as a first stepping stone, it can be a really good way to just take your first step into the language. Now, another huge thing that makes Japanese so difficult, and I've seen statistics on this before and it's crazy, is the speed at which Japanese people talk. And I'm pretty sure it's tied with Spanish for like the fastest language in the world. So yeah, that is a crazy statistic. And again, at first glance, this sounds super intimidating. Sounds like it would be super difficult. And to be honest, I didn't even know this when I started, but there's so many other things, like some of the contractions that they use, making words shorter, different combinations, etc. Informal speech, regional dialects, accents, and things like that. But honestly, I don't think this is really a huge issue at all. Personally, when it comes to the regional accents and dialects, I only discovered this maybe about a year or two ago, and I absolutely fell in love with it. If you truly like the Japanese language, it's like extra DLC, extra content that you get to learn, a whole new world, just a new experience. If you speak somebody's dialect, like their regional dialect, you're going to impress them so much more. It's like a whole new world to discover. It's just more Japanese for you, you know, but it's not like super hard stuff. It's more kind of just switching bits and pieces here and there to sound slightly different. So it doesn't change a huge amount with those dialects. And then when it comes to native speakers and speaking super fast, honestly, this isn't going to be a massive problem. The reason why is because one, the pronunciation of Japanese is quite rigid, meaning that it doesn't change a lot. So as I mentioned earlier with the kana, you have one character and it makes this sound every single time, which means that things are going to be read exactly how they're spelled. You're not going to see huge pronunciation changes between different words, meaning you're going to be able to pick up if a word is that word, if what you're hearing is actually what it is or not, and which makes it a lot easier to pick up words, pick up what they're saying and what you're actually hearing. And when it comes to the speed, I think the reason why Japanese people speak so fast is because when your phonetic system is that rigid, you almost have to speed up
because you're not allowed to kind of contract. Like in English, you say, what you doing? Like, what you're doing, or what you're watching, or did you do it? You know, you see this contractions, did ya instead of did you. In Japanese, you don't really do that, which forces them to just speak quicker. It's like I was saying, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? We'd end up talking like that to speak quicker. If you think about it like that, it makes a lot more sense and actually isn't as difficult as it might seem. And the consistency of the pronunciation is a stark contrast to English, as we change the pronunciation of things all the time. The spelling is always so different. So if you can think of it that way, that'll definitely make it a lot less intimidating. Also, not to mention French pronunciation, which I have also learned French. French pronunciation is insanely difficult compared to Japanese. Might be like Japanese generally has one of the easiest pronunciations in the world, so that is a huge benefit. Like I've said, every character is pronounced exactly the same. There's only like 2 or 3 characters which we don't have in English, like in terms of pronunciation, which is da and maybe hu. But again, you could, if you give it a go, you could probably pronounce all those right now. Now, the last thing that I kind of wanted to touch on, which is a very big thing, is the time over perceived investment kind of question. So as you might have seen, it takes a lot longer to learn Japanese and other languages. And if you're somebody who's kind of learning a language or is thinking about learning Japanese just because they kind of want to learn a foreign language, not particularly because they're super interested in Japanese, this might put you off. It's like, why would I learn Japanese when I could just learn French and like this to like a way better level in just a year? But in reality, in my experience of learning Spanish, French, I'm learning Portuguese now, and then Japanese, the perceived effort is exactly the same. Personally, I think that it feels just as hard to learn French, Spanish, or Portuguese as it does for Japanese. They all require a lot of effort and a lot of time to go into it. The only difference for me is the patience. It's just going to take a little bit longer, the same amount of effort, okay, but over a longer period of time to reach the same level in Japanese as it would in French or Spanish or whatever it is, assuming you're an English native speaker or speak a language closer to that. In reality, the perceived exertion is like exactly the same. I don't think it's that much harder. It literally just takes more time. So I don't even think that's really a point to consider. If that is something that is preventing you, think about the fact that you're going to be putting in the time anyways. You may as well just do it with the language that you're most interested in learning. So if that's Japanese, do it for Japanese. If it's French, do it for French. But yeah, you do not have to be gifted at all to learn Japanese. As I said, the perceived effort is the same. So learning a language is pretty hard, full stop. But Japanese is not as difficult as you think. If you put the time in, I promise you, you will get the results. The only difference is it takes longer for Japanese compared to other languages. Now, you got other things like different word order, grammar structure, etc. There's not many cognates in Japanese, but I can cover all of those in a future video. So if you're interested, comment part 2 down below. Things like keigo as well. So some of the things you can do to take advantage of the things that make all these difficulties easier, or just to take advantage of the inherently easy parts of Japanese. Number 1 is going to be taking advantage of things like SRS, spaced repetition, and smart reviews. This is going to help you to learn things like kanji and keep them in your memory. Essentially what it does is it shows you the kanji at the perfect time or the word you've learned so that you don't forget it. You can use things like Anki for this. If you're interested, I can also make a video on that, so let me know down in the comments. Also, make sure to make use of context, mnemonics, and radicals. So this is going to break kanji into smaller parts, and you can form memorable stories with them and visuals to just make it like an easier tool to learn those kanji. Like I said, things like wani kani is going to help you with that. Another thing you can do is to make sure that you are immersing in the Japanese language, whether it's passive or active. Ideally, you want it to be active because that's just going to bring you the most rewards. But this is going to really allow you to get used to the speed of the speech, get used to the contractions or the informal pieces of speech and things like that. So listening to loads and loads of Japanese, that's probably like my number 1 tip as a whole. That's going to help you get used to kind of everything we've mentioned in today's video. So if you've got subtitles at the bottom, it's going to help you with reading your kanji, etc. Also, a very, very big thing, and this applies to like almost any language, is just don't stress about it if you don't get it straight away. It's going to take loads of time to wrap your head around certain grammatical structures and things like that. Most important thing is to just enjoy it. When you're listening to Japanese, you're like, oh, like I don't know this kanji, or haven't heard this word, I don't know this grammatical structure. That's okay. Just leave it. Maybe come back, maybe have a quick look on Google. If you still don't understand it, just leave it. Come back to it in a month and you might have unlocked something else. You might know some other words that's going to help you understand it better. So don't stress about it if you don't get it straight away. That's totally normal. And if you come at it this way, it's going to make things so much easier, because you're not tackling this huge barrier where you're like, this is Japanese, it's really hard, I'm gonna have to understand everything the first time I look at it. If you accept the fact you're not gonna understand a lot of things, then you can just take the small wins, the things you do understand, and then keep going and enjoying the journey. So yes, Japanese has its challenges, but far more of these are just myths or just really stigmatized aspects of the language that in reality aren't as difficult once you get started, and many parts are a lot more forgiving and regular than Japanese learners let on. I think one thing that's really important is just to go by your own experience. Don't let other people decide for you what's going to be hard, because in reality you never know until you get started. I didn't find learning Japanese too hard. The pronunciation stuff I think is pretty intuitive, and even now sometimes, like for the first minute when I'm speaking, I get mistaken for a native. Like as an English speaker who very inconsistently was learning Japanese over 4 years from the age of 13, I had no idea what I was doing at the start. I'd say that's a pretty good result, you know? Don't be discouraged by the difficulties. Japanese is very stigmatized and every language has its difficult parts. So I think just get started and I promise you it'll be a lot easier than you think. And if I could do it, you 100% can too. Japanese was my first language ever. I just dove straight into it. I knew nothing about what I was doing, exactly like you. So just take my mistakes and implement them in a way so that you don't make them as well, and you'll make progress even quicker than me. In the comments, write down one thing that you thought was impossible when learning Japanese, or if you have already learned Japanese, what your experience kind of was.